This is The Bottom Line. My name is Scott Schweitzer, she's Kat Shear, and this is Brian Friend, and we are wrapping up the West Coast Classic. We started the day off with some team events, and that first team event was the Echo Bike deadlift, partner deadlift. And coming into the day, there were 3 teams 5 points apart.
Yeah, the 2 Invictus teams, so Invictus and Invictus UnConquerable, and then right behind them was Blue City Athletics out of St. Louis, Missouri. That workout is a devastating workout. The first partner has some rounds of partner deadlifts and Echo Bike, but the second male-female partner has 90-60 calorie bike, 90 for the men, 60 for the women, and then 45 straight partner deadlifts, which is just devastating, especially for the men.
Yeah, I noticed on the Invictus UnConquerable team, the male athlete was much taller than the female athlete, so he never got unstressed from the deadlift, and he was hurting on that last set of 10, I think it was.
Yeah, it's one of those workouts where obviously you need to have a good start, but it's much more important to have a strong finish. And in the case of Invictus UnConquerable, they kind of slowed down a little bit, where in Invictus, on the back of Eric Carmody, who's arguably the best individual athlete competing in the team competition, was able to endure those 45 deadlifts and ultimately help his team win that event.
And I actually talked to UnConquerable after this event to see where they were at mentally after falling to their teammates right at the end of the event. So you guys came in today, there's only 5 points separating first through third. And you guys held on today to have a good finish. Do you feel good about where you stand going into the last event?
Obviously, I would have liked to win the event, but you can't win them all. So I think we did the best we could.
I think we held on.
Maybe change a couple minor strategy points, but other than that, everyone left it all out there. That's all we can ask. I think I'm happy with where we are for sure.
So your closest competitor are your teammates back at the gym. How much trash talking goes on in a week?
You should have heard the run run yesterday.
Before, after, during.
It's mostly friendly, mostly. But at the end of the day, we're always going to be friends.
So what's your plan for the final event?
We're going to go fast at the beginning, we're going to come out fast. We're going to go fast in the middle, and then we're going to finish strong. We're going to go fast at the end.
All right, good luck, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Blue City Athletics also didn't do super well in that event. It opened up the door for some other teams to maybe get a game spot, but it really was a 6-team race for 5 spots.
Yeah, entering the day, Ohio Brutes was in the 6th spot. And of the 4 teams that weren't Invictus, they did best on that workout. Due to their performance there, they actually jumped all the way up to 4th place, I believe. And then, in that case, only had to hold on to a spot instead of fight for one.
Right, and the other teams were Backcountry Black and
Team Man-Made.
Team Man-Made, yeah.
Okay. So the second team event, what happens there?
So this is another regional throwback. It was 144 handstand push-ups, which they had to accumulate as a team. For people like us, that sounds like a daunting number, but these teams were blitzing through those, several athletes even choosing to do strict handstand push-ups for big sets, and then a 144-foot worm lunge. When we first saw the worm lunge, there were a lot of teams that weren't sure how to handle it. They were out of sync, people falling over each other, dropping the worm. Today, that was not an issue, as teams were basically racing down and back across the floor to the finish line.
Yeah. One thing about the team I wanted to mention. Did you hear about Jen Ryan's fractured hand?
Yeah, she right at the start of the ruck run, I think it was such a bottleneck and tight thing. I think she got elbowed by another athlete and had a little stress fracture, or maybe worse, on the outside of her hand. But I talked to CJ Martin, and he's like, of any of our athletes, she's the one I would want to have that, because she's tough as nails.
She's super tough, yeah, on the Invictus team. So let's talk about how the team shaped up for the whole weekend.
Yeah, so it was. It ended up being Invictus and then Invictus UnConquerable 1-2, and then of those other 4 teams, just based on the way the points stood, they basically knew in that last event that we just need to beat the other ones to get in. Blue City Athletics knew that the first event would be tough for them, but capitalized on the strength of theirs, which was that event. They sneak into the 5 spot. Ohio Brutes fought back from 6th to take the 4 spot. Backcountry Black was solid today. They finished in the 3rd spot. And it's one of those situations where 6 teams were probably good enough to compete at the games, but unfortunately for Team Man-Made, it just wasn't their day today.
Yeah, okay.
And we actually caught up with the Ohio Brutes, who made the move from 6th to 4th to talk about their emotional day and how excited they were that they're going to Madison. All right, so we're here with the Ohio Brutes. Came into the last event in 6th place. You guys smashed that last event. and punched your ticket to the games. What was your plan going into the event?
Just do what we know how to do. We practice it, we trust each other. We just knew we had to run our game and we would pull out.
Put the blinders on and run a race. We were confident going in. We did well in those workouts in practice and we executed. That was the biggest thing.
Do you think you did better on that because it involved more teamwork than some of the other events?
100%, because we've practiced together as a team for a while now, and like they said, we practiced this and training, and we knew like having to work together, all four of us, as opposed to each of us individually. That's where we were going to shine.
So you showed a lot of emotion on the floor after it was all over. How much does this mean to you to go to Madison?
Everything.
Everything, as
Not
much
just-
as we've done and had to overcome, especially this weekend even.
Yeah. It's
Like-
years of build up.
Yeah.
And not just for ourselves, like it means so much to be able to do it with these guys and do it for them, and it's awesome.
For all of our people supporting us, our SOS squad, our family, everybody, it's just like to finally get there and it'll be worth it.
Yeah, we got a big crew behind us that helps make this a lot easier for us.
And a shout out to your gym.
Yeah, to CrossFit in Lima, Ohio. Yeah.
Awesome. Good luck, guys, at the games. We'll see you there. Awesome.
Yeah, so individuals today began with a twist on an old classic. The push-pull event from 2014 is something that if you've been a fan of the sport, you will definitely remember Friday Night Lights, that battle between Rich and Josh. But this was a slightly different workout. They added some toes to bar into the mix, and they had the use of the torque tank. So instead of just having the strict handstand push-ups be the focus, there was definitely a grip element that came into play.
And how did the ladies do?
So for the women, I think a lot of people were looking at Carrie Pierce and Bethany Shadburne as kind of the girls to beat in this workout. And while they both did phenomenally well, it was actually Alexis Raptis out of, she trains with Training Think Tank, who took the win. She was able to do all 4 sets of strict handstand push-ups unbroken, and that was basically all she needed to do to pull ahead of the other 2 girls. For her, this was of critical importance because she was the one in 6th heading into this event, and after winning it, she moved up to 4th.
And we actually talked to Alexis after this event. So Alexis, you came into this event in 6th place and you smashed it. How are you feeling now going into the last event?
I'm just excited. I knew today I needed to make a statement in the first workout if I wanted to get into the top 5. So I'm just going to go out there and have fun, do what I know I can do on the last workout and see what happens.
All right, thanks a lot. Have a good
And so the final event?
Yeah, the final event for the girls was a regional finale that we'd seen before. So 15 ring muscle ups and then 5 increasing weight squat cleans and a race on the finish line. And for a majority of the athletes, this was a true race as it was such a quick event. But one athlete stood out from the rest, and that was Danielle Brandon. I mean, she was so impressive on this event that she could actually look left and right, appreciate the crowd, take her time, hit both bars, the last 2 bars with confidence, and walk across the finish line to an event win.
Yep.
And we had a couple athletes on the bubble. There was 2 spots, 3 ladies, and it came down to this event.
Yeah, so Alexis Raptis had moved into 4th. She jumped ahead of Dani Speegle and Regan Huckaby, who are very, very good friends. And I knew that for both of them heading into that event, it was a bit emotional because they basically felt like they were battling with each other for the final game spot. Once the competition took place, however, they both executed perfectly on the barbells, and Alexis Raptis missed her first attempt at the 200-pound bar. And so when the girls were standing there at the end, no one was quite sure which 2 had made it.
And in an event like that, every second matters because times from the first and second heats were playing a factor into the overall placement.
Yep. Yeah. And so overall, we had a clean sweep from the underdog athletics team. Bethany takes first, Carrie takes second, and then Danielle Brandon takes third. And then we've got the 2 girls from Invictus, Dani Speegle and Reagan Huckabee, who get the 4th and 5th spot.
And that was a very special moment and a pretty cool group of 5 girls overall to do that. But I think especially for Dani and Reagan, who I said felt like they were battling with each other, to ultimately both earn a spot, and the emotion that they showed in that embrace after realizing that is something that you just you can't really predict or prepare for.
Sure.
It was very fun.
And we caught up with them at the end of that event.
So, you guys both qualified for the games.
Yes.
How special is this, not just for you, but your teammate and friend?
It means everything. It would have been bittersweet. I don't mean to talk for Reagan, but I think it would have been bittersweet if only one of us had gone. Like, we've been training together for a couple months now, got close. It just wouldn't have felt right without her there. So,
You both really had to fight in that last workout to get in.
yeah.
How did you deal with the pressure and push the pedal down?
For both of us, I will speak for both of us because we knew this would be a good workout for us. We love to lift weight, so why not end on a workout that we know we can move through that ladder pretty quickly. So we were pretty confident going in. We just, the pieces needed to fall correctly.
Yeah, you can feel good about a workout, but you got to execute. So it was just like, it was perfect.
We also caught up with CJ Martin and Justin Cotler, who 2 training camps swept the entire ladies division.
Congratulations on today.
Thank you.
It seems as though this whole concept of training camps, Invictus has been doing this for a very long time now. And I think
13 years.
Yeah.
Since day one, we've always said we wanted to create a training environment where people would compete in a way that would also support and encourage each other and bring everybody up. And that's exactly what we've done. And every year, they continue to do it. They continue to have fun. They continue to have success.
Yeah. So how do you deal with different personalities and sort of blending that camaraderie balance with competitiveness?
I think that's been the art, is that what we ask them to do is be true team players and parts of the community, just like we ask our regular gym members, right? Is that if you're working out next to somebody, it doesn't matter if you're better or worse, the same, right? You're trying to lift them up and help them achieve their goals, and they're trying to do the same.
Yeah, I love that. Well, there's going to be Sea of Green in Madison this summer, and we can't wait to cheer you guys on. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Justin, 1, 2, 3 sweep in the ladies individual.
Oh, man.
How does that make you feel?
It's a lot of hard work and time and effort put into it, but when we came into this, in my head, I thought to myself, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed if we don't go 1, 2, 3, honestly. I just think that they're that good and they're that special. And we've put in so much time and effort, and Carrie was steady, but to see Danielle and to see Bethany maturing and just getting better and better, it really is, it just makes me so happy. I'm really proud.
So they all look like they're having fun out there.
I think so.
They're all smiling as they're going through this. Occasionally you have a downer or something. But overall, how do you keep that going in a competitive environment?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing now is we're going to give them a week of rest, We're so close to the games, and this was a really taxing weekend, so we'll give them some rest, and then we'll put a plan together moving forward to try to have them peaking again at the games, and then we really focus on games training. A lot of monostructural conditioning, a lot of running, a lot of grunt work. The skill and the barbell work is already there. They're pretty strong already. It's just a matter of getting into that mentality of games training and a little bit of suffering, and then we'll give them a nice taper in, just make sure their bodies are feeling good. The most important thing for me is to have them healthy going into the games, because if I can have them healthy going into the games, they were already really freaking good. So now it's a matter of getting healthy.
So last question.
Yeah.
You can see the improvement visibly in Bethany and Danielle, but Carrie, her weakness has been the pain.
Yeah.
She clears the green ladder at 200 pounds. How did that make Dad feel?
She just keeps getting stronger. I mean, in the last 2 weeks prior to this event, she PR'd her snatch at 200 pounds and her clean and jerk at 230. And it's amazing at this stage in her career that she just keeps getting better. And when she talks about retirement, and I'm like, but you just keep getting better, Carrie. And you're having fun, So I'm just so excited for her. And you can see she's having a blast out there. So it's awesome. It's just really good.
Thank you so much, and good luck in Madison.
So let's talk about the men.
So same 2 events as the women, and kind of a similar situation for the first 3 spots, as well as that kind of the next 3 positions, which were battling for games spots. At the top, we had Cole Sager, who came into the day with a kind of commanding lead. He did great on the first workout, and at that point in the competition, he had taken nothing worse than a 5th place throughout the weekend, and set himself up basically for a cruise to the victory in the finale. So a phenomenal performance for Cole, who actually wins his first ever CrossFit competition this weekend. He never won a regional, he never won a sanctional, but now he's won the first ever West Coast Classic semifinal.
And it was Father's Day, and his first Father's Day.
His first Father's Day, many of you will be aware of the struggle that was having that first child that him and his wife went through, and he's one of the guys in the sport that's just almost nicer than you can imagine. So very, very rewarding for him, and great to see a guy like that have this kind of success.
Yeah, and speaking of nice, Noah Olson. He took the second place spot, correct?
Yeah, and Noah was probably the favorite to win coming in, but from talking to him, his two main goals this weekend were get back into the mode of live competition and experience that and feel that. And he said, it took me a couple events to kind of shake off that dust. And if you watched throughout the weekend, he seemed to be getting better and better as the weekend went on. But ultimately, he just wanted to book a ticket to the games, and we all know where his eyes are set, which is at the top of that podium.
And did anybody have as much fun as Sean Swinney had this weekend?
Well, I mean, win, lose, or draw, I don't know if anyone really ever does. He's always got the cowboy hat. He's always saluting the crowds. He's always cracking the jokes. But behind all of that is a phenomenal athlete who shows up to compete. He never does anything too flashy in terms of competition, but he's always right there. Third place in this field is nothing to take lightly. Congratulations to Sean for making it to, I believe, his 4th CrossFit Games.
And then again, on the men's side, we had 2 spots and 3 people to vie for those.
Yeah, so we had past teen champion Dallin Pepper, Brandon Luckett, and Will Morad. And to start the day, Will Morad was on the outside looking in, but he must have been licking his chops for that strict handstand push-up workout, which Noah got out to a quick start. Will chased him down, and ultimately there was nothing to be said about it. Will was the man to beat, earned 100 points, propelled himself into 4th place heading into the final.
And so then we take that final event, and Dallin Pepper, Brandon Luckett, and Will Morad fight for those positions. Will Morad takes the lead there after that one, but what happened in that final event?
Well, even more so than on the women's side, heats 1 and 2 were extremely relevant because Brian Wynn had posted a time of 121, Tola Moraquinho 122, and there were 3 other athletes also with times of 123, 4, and 5. And basically, I wasn't even sure if these times were beatable heading into the final, despite knowing how good all 10 of those athletes could potentially do.
And we do have to take a sidetrack here. Cedric Lapointe wins the event. Not someone that I would have picked on the onset of this event, but he was in the outside lane and hit a 120 and change.
Yeah, so Cedric told me that he tapped into an anger and aggression prior to this workout that he never really felt in competition before, and it makes total sense if you go back and watch the clip. He was, outside lane, but incredible performance. That 100 points bumped him into the 8th spot and extends his season with a chance to fight in the last chance qualifier now.
Yeah, happy for Cedric because he's a fun guy to talk to.
Yeah. So between Brandon and Dallin, how did it shake out?
Yeah. So with all those other times factoring in, and the men in that final heat all finishing so close to each other, you weren't really sure if Dallin had done enough to overcome the deficit that he'd given up in the previous event. Ultimately, though, Brandon Luckett was 20 points clear of him, and with Luckett qualifying for the games, that makes it 5 for 5 on the men's side and 5 for 5 on the women's side in terms of games veterans taking all the qualifying spots for individuals.
And Brandon Luckett had a rough start to the weekend and came all the way back for a game spot.
Yeah, he hurt his elbow in the snatch event on day 1. And a lot of these workouts demanded a significant amount of upper body movement, especially today with the handstand push-ups, the ring muscle-ups, the squat cleans. So he said in his interview, he said, I never really felt good the rest of the weekend, but he strapped up, lined up, and got the job done, and he's going back to the games.
He sure did. So it was a great weekend. You've been to a West Coast regional before. How did this sort of compare?
Yeah, I was there for Del Mar in 2018, the last West Coast regional, and this for being forced to move out of California into a venue that they've never used before for a competition like this, I think they replicated it extremely well. It's always nice. It was nice because they had a couple athletes that are like kind of West Coast, familiar faces, but the atmosphere was great. The programming was electric. The finale was fun, and it very much felt like the West Coast of old.
Yeah. Okay, so bottom line, personal highlights from the weekend.
My personal highlight is a friend of mine, Spencer Panchek, who was fighting for that last spot. He had too much to overcome on the last 2 days, but he, on the next to last event, the push-pull, did a baseball slide to overtake Cole Sager at the end of that race to give him at least a shot on that final event. And it was so exhilarating and so much fun to watch. And there were tons of highlights. That's just one that personally touched me.
And Spencer, like Cedric, had a tough start to the weekend, but he clawed his way back. He made it into the last chance qualifier. He's incredibly good, and we'll see what he can do in a couple weeks. Highlight for me has got to be Cole Sager. I mentioned it before, first competition win for him on the back of kind of the season and trials he's had off the floor. a guy like this who's, gives everything, loves everyone, to stand atop the podium and feel kind of that success that he's never had before in this kind of competition, it just makes me feel good.
Yeah. For me, it's definitely Reagan Huckabee making that 5th spot and going to the games again. We haven't seen her since 2019 on a team. It's been a while since she's been an individual. She's 34 years old. She has 2 small children. She's up against these ladies who, don't have nearly as much responsibility as her. I just think it's great as a mom. I think she's very underrated. She doesn't get a lot of attention.
So Reagan, congratulations over the weekend. You are somewhat underrated coming in here. Not a lot of people are talking about you, but you are sneaking up to everybody, and it looks like you have a shot to go to the CrossFit Games as an individual. Now this will be the first time since when?
Let's see, as an individual, 2017.
2017.
Was the last time I went individual.
And the last time you were at the Games was in 2019?
2019 with the team. Yeah, Team Invictus.
Yeah. What does it take to be a mom of 2? To be here? All these girls can train full time, and I think people may think that you live in San Diego and you just live at Invictus. That is not the case.
It's not the case. I actually live in Oregon. So Invictus has just been my team since the beginning, and since COVID, I've solely been training in my garage. I think you have to have no expectations, or I shouldn't say no expectations. I should say realistic expectations. Of course, you always want to be the best. When you're competitive, when you're in the sport, when you're in a sport, you want to be number 1, right? Well, for me, it's fun. It fills my competitive drive, but my number 1 priority is my kids. So kids will always trump training, and I just had to figure out how to let go of some expectations. Hey, if I didn't get a training session, that's the way it was going to go,
And yet you're still fit enough to compete with these girls who, make it their full-time job to compete. So it's very incredible, super inspiring. As a mom of 2 myself, I just think we need to give you a little more credit, a little more airtime.
Look, Reagan, phenomenal. A lot of people were looking at her after the Open and the quarterfinals and saying wow, is she really this good again? And you said, to line up against women who are doing this full time, who have all day, every day to invest in training and recovery and nutrition and all these things, she has a ton of stuff going on, but it hasn't prevented her from staying relevant in this sport. Tremendous accomplishment for Regan Huckabee. Very, very happy to see her going back to the games.
Yeah, and so in closing, any records that you want to talk about?
Yeah, it was that's this history relived was the theme of the weekend, and while not all of the events were exact parallels where you can draw apples to apples comparisons, for example on the push-pull event, in all the ones that you could, I think the records all fell, and sometimes those records were really good, and a lot of them were held by people like Matt Fraser and Cara Saunders and Sarah Sigmundsdottir, and this is just a testament to how far the sport's come, how far these athletes have come, and it really just gets me excited for what's to come at Madison later this summer.
Yeah, well, as always, we appreciate your insight. This has been The Bottom Line, and we'll see you next time.